What's up YouTubers, Aldo SJ back with a brand new video for you here, and what this video is about today, guys. I have went through all of the content that I put on here, and if anybody has seen my bio stories, they know in part 2 I put out that I am a sci-fi geek. Those sci-fi things are both Star Wars and Star Trek respectively, but as I've went through my videos, I've realised I've not made any content yet in regards to either franchise. So I thought I'd pop on here today and get one out there, so to speak. So what I'm going to start with is Star Trek. Why do I love Star Trek? What's my favourite show? What is my favourite film? Who is my favourite character? So, as always guys, strap yourselves in and just enjoy. Well, those that don't know, Star Trek came on the scenes in the mid-1960s. It was created by the person who would become the godfather of Star Trek, the Star Trek universe, Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry came out of the armed forces after WW2 and went into becoming a TV and film writer, and lo and behold, he came up with the idea of a better future. And those ideas for a better future turned itself into early Star Trek stories, and he took his ideas to Hollywood, to many different companies, and the company that stuck with him was actually Paramount. And so many within the early stages of the 1960s, like I say, Star Trek came on, and it was one pilot called The Cage. Now, the Cage was okay. It wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad either. But it didn't get the views that they were hoping for. So the powers that be at Paramount turned around to Gene Roddenberry and said we need another pilot. That other pilot was Where No Man Has Gone Before, and it was a better introduction to that world. William Shatner was brought on to be Captain Kirk. Leonard Nimoy was brought on to be Mr. Spock. He was in the first pilot, but the producers liked him so much he was brought back for a second go. I think it was just the presence that Leonard Nimoy brought to Spock. And 3 seasons later, Star Trek had run its course, so to speak, like many shows do in America and around the world. But it was the reruns after that, when it went to syndication, that really got the fans on that bandwagon to say, we like Star Trek, we enjoy Star Trek. And then going into the 70s, when conventions were starting up for Star Trek, you had the fans turn around to the makers of the show and the actors. Are we going to see more Star Trek? There was going to be another show called Star Trek Phase 2, but that Phase 2 actually turned into Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now, realistically, all Star Trek the Motion Picture is, those that haven't seen it, is it's just basically one big massive episode. I know some people would turn around and say, well, isn't that what all the Star Trek films are? Yes and no. But that's all it really was. And it just didn't get the whole buzz right away. At least when I look at Star Trek motion picture now as an adult and watch it from being both a fan and a critic, it ain't as good as what they were saying it was back then. Obviously, the technology improved for the show. The alien costumes improved. The outfits improved dramatically. Big time improved. And it wasn't until they got to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where it really, really catapulted for the films. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan actually was part one of a trilogy where, spoiler alert for those that don't know, Mr. Spock dies in The Wrath of Khan, and then he is resurrected in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and then come Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, it is all one big trilogy arc, which at the time nobody really thought that was that at the time, but as time has went on, history's been rewritten and it's a trilogy out of those films. And at that time, Star Trek was gaining momentum again, so much so that they actually contemplated doing a brand new show, going back to the drawing board of what they were going to do with Star Trek Phase 2, but they needed to go forward, and that was the thing about Star Trek back then. They were the future, so they kept going forward. And just before Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, one of the bad ones, there's good films, bad films, in the middle films, but Star Trek V's bad. You can watch it if you want, by all means give your own opinion, but yeah, it's bad. So before Star Trek V coming around, Paramount had commissioned and given the green light for Star Trek The Next Generation to be made. And you had the likes of the legendary Sir Patrick Stewart being brought on board, Jonathan Frakes for Commander William Riker, and many other actors and actresses. And TNG turned into a very family series, but it also relaunched Star Trek in a different way, and in my opinion, in a better way, where there was something for everybody that was watching that show. And then what would happen with TNG, when you have the fresher audience, the younger audience, watch TNG, they'll sit and watch it with their parents, and their parents will say, well, you like the show, you should watch the original show and the original movies. And that's what happened to me. As I've repeated on this channel before, I was put in front of the television, 6, 7 years old, with my father, and he said to me, oh, Star Trek is coming on, you should watch this, you'll enjoy it. And 6, 7 years old, now 30 years later, I am still watching Star Trek. I will put up my hand like that and say I started off as a fan. I started off as a fan, a Trekker, and now I'm a Trekkie. I am loud and proud to say that I'm a Trekkie. And I am that much of a Trekkie that I know a lot of the characters. I know a lot about the ships and everything like that that's in Star Trek. My wife even tests me every so often. But when The Next Generation had was coming to the end of its course, and they were going to bring out more films linking the TNG universe. It's the timeline, sorry, the TNG timeline. another show was getting brought on board, and it was actually my favourite show, my favourite show out of the whole franchise, was a show called Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That was given the green light by Gene Roddenberry before he died, and the thing that made Deep Space Nine so different was now they were no longer going out and exploring the final frontier. It was actually bringing, Deep Space Nine was a space station, so everything was coming to them. Unfortunately, the first and second season of Deep Space Nine didn't pan out very well. It was sharing sort of the viewership with the last 2 seasons of TNG, and I think that was and I think that's what hurt Deep Space Nine. And then eventually, come when the first TNG film came out, Star Trek Generations, and which was sort of linking with Deep Space Nine Season 3. In Season 3 of Deep Space Nine, they gave the station a ship to defend itself called the USS Defiant. That is my favourite ship out of the whole franchise. Is called a Defiant class ship, the USS Defiant, and it is a phenomenal battleship. When Deep Space Nine got given the Defiant in Season 3, it sort of launched them a little bit better, because instead of staying still, they could go out and explore now. So they could have, and sometimes in some of the shows, they could have 2 different stories. They could have a story that's happening on the Defiant specifically, and then there could also be a sub-story on the space station, or it would be vice versa. And like I say, Deep Space Nine, my favourite show, and my favourite captain. The legendary Avery Brooks was the first black captain in Star Trek, and he was phenomenal. They started him off as commander. I don't really know why. I want to say they were sort of testing the waters to see how he would be. But you know, it was a difficult one to understand why they went along with that. But they started him off as commander, and then coming to the end of towards Season 3, they eventually promoted him to captain, and it was in Season 4 that Deep Space Nine really took off. And the reason why that took off is, well, you would just have to tune in for part 2 of this story to find out. Yes, this is gonna be a series, so watch out for part 2 coming very soon. And as I always say, guys, on this Star Trek story, or on this channel overall, you stay safe, you stay awesome, and good journey in life, guys.